Good morning, Bruce. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Good
Awesome.
morning to you. It's a beautiful day here.
It is a beautiful day here in Prescott, Arizona. So I got to ask you, we've talked many times, but I had no idea. You worked in a prison? Really?
I've worked in two prisons.
Two
actually.
prisons. Okay. I never expected that.
It was, I was much younger, and back in the state of Ohio, they had a civil service test that the state would give. And I guess it was just to make sure that you could add and subtract. But it was a test that was used to qualify you for state employment. Well, I needed a job, and so I took the test. And one day I got a phone call, and they said, how would you like a job as a social worker in the Ohio Penitentiary?
Oh, goodness.
Well, I needed a job. I had no credentials.
It's the outcome.
No credentials whatsoever to be a social worker. I studied philosophy, creative writing, and English through grad school. No credentials, but back then you didn't need it. If you got a score on this civil service test, they called me and said, "We want to be a social worker in the Ohio Penitentiary."
Okay.
Now, the Ohio Penitentiary is like something out of Shawshank Redemption. And it was a medieval castle kind of a building. And it was the deepest, darkest hole that you could be put in the state of Ohio. I mean, we had death row.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, I need a job.
Right?
And I'm a writer. This will be interesting.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So I said, yeah. Well, at the time, it was in the winter. I lived in a suburb of Columbus, which is where the prison was. And I would take a bus into town into work.
Okay.
And it was dark,
Cold.
cold in the morning. I would arrive at Shawshank Redemption's prison and have to be manually let through 5 locked
Oh,
gates
yeah. Yep. The Sally boards. Uh-huh.
by guards. And I couldn't have any contact with the outside world. No phone calls, nothing. I would go to my office and I would gather some materials that I would need. And then I would go down to my satellite office, which was literally a prison cell.
Wow.
It was a prison cell with a table and 2 chairs. And one was for me and one was for the prisoner. And my job was to interview all the new prisoners.
Oh, okay.
So when someone was incarcerated into the Ohio Penitentiary, I was one of the first people that they had any conversation with. And my job was to find out their story, because typically they left a carnage of children, girlfriends, ex-wives. And we had to sort all that out, because now the children were eligible for aid to dependent children or something. Like, who's the mother of this child?
Right.
And gather all of that background. And then, hear their story about how they got there, too. And I never met one guilty person there when they told me their story.
Funny how that works that way, doesn't it?
But then I would go back to my office in the later part of the afternoon and dictate my report. Back then we had dictating machines, and we would dictate the report, which would get typed up by so-called honor inmates. And that report would get put into the master file, so that if anyone needed to know any of this information, they had a resource. I wasn't there very long when I came to see that there is truly, truly evil in the world.
Oh, I can imagine.
Because these so many had no remorse, no sense of right or wrong.
Oh, no.
I mean, which was just hard for me to appreciate.
A sane person, that seems hard to imagine that.
And the loud, the cell blocks. I would have occasion to be on the cell blocks, and just the clamoring and obscenity, and just to have to live in that situation,
No.
I can't even imagine.
It would change you forever.
The cells were large enough that there were a bunk bed on the left and a bunk bed on the right, and a toilet and a sink at the end of the room. And all four people really couldn't stand up
Wow.
together. I mean, they could stand up, but you'd be dancing.
Right.
And to have to live in that environment was just unbelievable. Well, eventually they built a new prison, and all of us who worked at the Ohio Penitentiary had an opportunity to go elsewhere in the prison system,
Oh, okay.
to wherever we wanted. And so I interviewed at all these different prisons, and I decided to go to a place called Lebanon Correctional Institution, where I thought, maybe I could serve some useful function.
Right. Right.
Because this was a prison for first-time felony convictions.
Oh, okay.
18.
A little more positive environment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I was at the Ohio Penitentiary, it didn't take me long. I was glad these people were in the prison because I didn't want to see them out on the street.
Exactly.
At Lebanon, it was different. They were young, and some of it was so almost absurd because back then the young returning Vietnam veterans got busted for having a joint,
Right.
and they were now in prison. What good did that serve anybody?
Nothing. Nobody.
So my job there, I was a so-called vocational counselor. My job was to interview prisoners, help them get tested, and then help them understand the test results for vocational training, and then get them into the proper vocational training. And again, they were 18, 19-year-old people. There was still hope.
Right.
And they could get valuable training. We even had college courses.
Oh, nice.
An interesting story that springs from that is that on a volunteer basis, I taught creative writing in the prison. So I did it after hours. I wasn't on the payroll. And it was of course, the writing was not crafted like a trained writer would craft something, but the passion and the emotion in some of the writing was just amazing. But an interesting incident was that, I guess it goes back to I witnessed an attempted escape there.
Oh.
Now, 2 or 3 guys actually did try to escape. It had a double fence with a concertina wire on top of it. They didn't make it,
Right.
but that set off a reaction by the guards, and they began shooting tear gas inside the prison.
Right.
And there were people, 19-year-olds sitting in a college class in the prison that were getting tear gassed,
Right.
and had nothing to do with any of this. And so there was a riot, basically, which I witnessed. And I felt both morally obligated, and I was required to file what they call the use of force report whenever you saw use of force.
Right.
And I saw some things that were brutally done to prisoners. Now, again, these were 18 and 19-year-old people, and they weren't, maybe again they was there busted for a joint.
Right.
And so I turned in my report, which of course didn't sit well with the administration.
Right.
And so I was not a favor of theirs. So one day I go back after hours to teach my creative writing class. And I got about halfway through the process of getting inside the prison. And one of the guards said, who are you? And I told him who I was. And he said, well, you've been banned from the prison.
Wow.
Come with me. So now I'm the only civilian
Oh,
in a prison at night being escorted to the captain's office, surrounded by guards who, and there's always this tension between the guards and the social services
Oh,
people,
sure.
you know. So, it was a very tense situation because I could have been set up
yeah.
in any way,
Absolutely.
in any way, and I knew that I wasn't, because of the report, wasn't a favorite among the guards or the
Right.
administration. Finally, I was released. I had to gather all my stuff from my office, and I was escorted out of the prison. So the next day, I'm going to go to work, right?
Right.
And I went to the time cards. We punched in and out. And I pulled up my time card, and I see that on my time card there was paper-clipped a note that said, report immediately to the warden's office.
Okay.
You're banned from the prison.
Wow.
Well, since I was doing the writing class on my own, I didn't punch in on the clock, so I had no idea I had been banned from the prison.
Right.
So I went in and I met briefly with the warden, and I saw there was no future here. So
Yeah. That might have been a blessing.
I resigned. I resigned, and that was my last day.
That might, yeah. I'd say that was a blessing, and one of those blessings in disguises. So.